First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not recognizing my ex-girlfriend? I saw my ex-girlfriend, 29 female, in the supermarket last week. She's employed as a cashier there. I did not recognize her at all. We broke up 7 years ago when I moved away to pursue a job opportunity. She also looks very different now. I genuinely did not remember or recognize her face. She looked kind of familiar, but for some reason, I just could not remember. She started talking to me, asking me how I have been, and I was like, sorry, do I know you? She got upset and said I was an a-hole, and it was awkward silence until I paid and left. Later, I recalled the incident to my brother, and he said it could be one of my ex-girlfriends. Then it finally triggered some memories, and I realized she was my ex-girlfriend. I deleted social media a few years back, and I only have one private Instagram account that limited people can view to, so I don't keep up or stalk any of my exes. Additionally, this particular ex had gained a lot of weight since we broke up, and she looked completely different from when we were dating. I saw her again this morning and told her that I was purposely ignoring her, but that I just didn't recognize her at first. She said she doesn't believe that, as we were together for 3 years, and it is impossible to forget someone you dated for 3 years. I pointed out that she looks very different now, and she teared up and asked me to get lost. My brother says she made a Facebook post about me. When your ex says he doesn't recognize you because you got too fat. The post got a lot of attention from her friends saying I was an a-hole. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but it turns out I did. I'm not going to approach her anymore, but I want to know, am I the a-hole for not recognizing my ex-girlfriend? Edit. The face masks don't apply here because she was wearing a transparent face shield, not the face mask. All the employees serving customers at the store were wearing face shields. I was wearing a face mask, but I have a distinctive scar near my eyebrow that makes it easier for people to recognize me. Now for the top comments. Did you accidentally insinuate that you couldn't recognize her because of her weight gain? I think she might just have some insecurities and problems she needs to work through. No matter what you said or how you said it, she would have come out upset. Not a hole. I came here to say this. As a person who struggled with body image for a long time, I can pretty much assure Opie that this is much more a reflection of her issues than his behavior. She's not happy about gaining weight. Most people aren't. And Opie confirmed she doesn't look like the same person anymore. Definitely not an a-hole. Agree, not an a-hole. Just wanted to paraphrase a quote I also saw. Sometimes you are the villain in someone else's story, even if you didn't mean to be. Not an a-hole. You never called her fat. And gaining or losing weight can really change the way someone looks. There was probably nothing you could have done or said to make the situation better after the initial incident, because she's insecure about her weight gain. Best to just move on and not worry about what's happening on social media. Pre-COVID times, I ran into an ex in another country. Crazy small world. And he had no clue who I was. I had lost a significant amount of weight, chopped my hair off, got tattoos. I thought it was hilarious, and I gave him so much crap in a joking way. We got up. I met his fiancée, and then we parted amicably and with a funny story. Part of me expects to someday run into them again, and I will 100% pretend to not recognize them. Yeah, I said she looks so different now compared to when we were dating. I never directly said she gained weight or got fat. My brother says her social media is full of self-hating posts. I feel kind of bad thinking I might have contributed to that. No a-holes here. It's unfortunate and embarrassing. I feel really bad for her. It sounds like she's really sensitive about her weight gain. She's allowed to feel embarrassed and hurt over this. You don't owe her anything, and even apologized. Info: how many exes do you have, and how was the breakup with this one? The breakup was amicable. I wanted to relocate for a job opportunity, and she wanted to stay, so we broke up. We didn't feel like we could commit to a long-distance relationship. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister about what her husband sent me 12 days after I lost my son? Me and my husband lost our baby boy, stillbirth, 12 days ago. It gets increasingly hard for us every day, and we're trying our best to remain calm and surround ourselves with our loved ones who support us during these times. Me and my sister are very close. Very close, and we used to spend the majority of our time together. That is, until we both settled down and got married, although she still visits and calls. She's been very supportive and understanding, although my brother-in-law, her husband, tends to be mean and make hurtful comments about me and my husband. My brother-in-law is younger than my husband. He always tries to dictate how my family treat each other and demands to be involved in everything, no matter how big or small. I've distanced myself from him, but I kept in contact with my sister. Throughout my pregnancy, he kept acting strange and making fun of everything my husband and I said about our baby. My sister is currently pregnant. I didn't know that because she didn't tell me, seeing that we're in the middle of grieving, and she probably hasn't found the right time yet. Yesterday, I got mail sent from my brother-in-law. I was confused since we don't talk at all. I opened the envelope to find a copy of a pregnancy test that belongs to my sister with a small note with the words, "I'm so sorry for yours and your husband's loss," handwritten. I was shocked, dumbfounded. I was mad, so mad. This is how I learned that my sister is pregnant for the first time. My husband saw it and he was livid. So we went to see my family and I told my sister what happened. She was upset, but immediately left the house. My mother, father, and older sister were sitting with us, and they argued with me saying I shouldn't have told my sister because I might have just caused a huge issue, and I should have just thrown the mail away and ignored him. My mom freaked out and said that brother-in-law is a jerk, but being petty isn't the answer. She asked if I want my sister to resent my brother-in-law just because we both don't get along. My husband and I got into an argument with her. My dad saw where we're coming from, but said I shouldn't have told her. They themselves didn't know about the pregnancy. They said that my brother-in-law would have told the entire family if he had bad intentions. We left the house after the argument. My mom kept berating me, saying I'm now responsible for whatever happens with my sister. I stopped taking their calls to think about it, and it's terrible. My husband and I decided to go no contact to regain our strength. I don't know if I'll be able to talk to my sister to see what happened with her. My mom keeps trying to call to guilt me about the situation. If your sister's marriage depends on everyone hiding her husband's true personality from her, then it's a mess either way. You're not an a-hole, but your entire family, minus sis with terrible husband, sure is. This hit the nail on the head for me. If I received a letter from a brother-in-law, I would assume it also came from my sister. Since I'm closer to my sisters than I am with their husbands, I would broach the subject with my sister. Opie did nothing wrong bringing it up with her sister. And if she didn't know before how much of an a-hole her husband was, she definitely does now. Seems like she's got some decisions to make before the baby comes. This whole just ignored hate mail crap is infuriating. If my wife had been sent something this freaking malicious, I'd probably be checked for rabies due to the foam coming out of my mouth. Not the a-hole. Christ. Your brother-in-law went out of his way to try to be hurtful to you and your husband. He knew what he was doing, and your sister had a right to know what type of man she married. This wasn't a simple pregnancy announcement. He went out of his way to send you the used tests. Who does that? I'm so sorry for your loss, and for this awful attack that was made on you. Exactly. Her family saying that brother-in-law would have told the entire family if he had bad intentions makes no sense. Him only telling her sister who just lost a baby is the bad intention. He made sure she and her husband knew, but not the rest of the family. That was clearly malicious intent to go out of his way and hurt the sister and her husband. He's incredibly awful, and they needed to know that. But they seem like they're the type of family that would sit on things and not deal with them because they don't want to face anything which causes the victim to be hurt further and the person with bad intent to keep getting away with things. Just sweeping things under the carpet, enabling abusers. 100% not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law sounds psychotic. There was no need to send you their pregnancy test. That's some abhorrent crap right there. Anyone saying you've caused drama needs a wake-up call. Your brother-in-law caused the issue when he decided to be a sicko. I am so dreadfully sorry for your loss. I'm sending you lots of love and light. I hope you'll be okay. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his behavior is completely inappropriate? My husband's mother has never liked me, and she was witchy from day one. Honestly, she never did anything egregious, but I don't tolerate bullying, and he had never been close to her, so we went no contact. We still had a relationship with father-in-law and one sister-in-law, though mother-in-law's other daughter chose not to have a relationship with us. I could tell for a while that it was bothering father-in-law. He was very withdrawn at our wedding, and when I tried to comfort him, he snapped at me that I have no idea how much it hurts to be there without his wife. Mother-in-law almost died over the summer due to a freak accident in a friend's boat. She was in a coma for a couple of days and has had to do physical therapy. Father-in-law called us when she got home and said he can't see us anymore because when he was looking at her in a coma, he couldn't live with the fact that he hangs out with people who hate her. And he can't play both sides anymore. My husband got very upset and asked him to reconsider, but father-in-law said from now on they are a package deal, and if we can't respect her, he can't see us. My husband has been devastated, and I've been trying to help him work through it, but he has gone to their house multiple times to talk to his dad. Father-in-law will not see him unless he apologizes to his mom, though mother-in-law said that she doesn't want to see him and doesn't want an apology. The last time dear husband went over there, the sister-in-law we're estranged with called the cops. I sat down with him recently and we had a serious conversation about how it isn't okay. I said that he needs to respect his dad's boundaries. He can't trespass and he can't force a relationship. I told him point blank that his actions were completely inappropriate. He is now mad at me for not having empathy and said that was a robotic response and he can't lose his dad. Edit for some of the stuff she did. She would not eat my cooking and clung to father-in-law's arm whining that she was hungry. She was constantly making jokes about my outfits, and my husband must really love me to put up with her frumpiness. When father-in-law bought her things, she would literally be like, "I got something and you didn't." She made jokes about spending all of father-in-law's money because she didn't want us to get any when they died, including sending my husband a picture of a hotel room full of shopping bags and saying, "Your inheritance." She tried to hijack her daughter's wedding and make it a party for herself. She whined and talked in baby talk constantly because father-in-law thought it was cute. She kept giving me marital advice when she had been asked to stop, and then said I was doing marriage wrong because my husband doesn't baby me. She sprayed me with a hose while she was watering her dog and then just laughed and would not apologize, and said I should get a sense of humor. Now for the top comments. Not Dayhall. Doesn't he understand the concept of no? His parents are telling him no. He needs to respect it and work through his feelings on his own, without repeatedly bothering two traumatized people. The husband doesn't want to lose both of his parents. I do, however, think that his parents are both a-holes. No a-holes here. Your response is logical and he is emotional. You're right, but he's going through a lot. Both the mother-in-law and father-in-law sound like a-holes though. They're pinning this all on you too, rather than accepting that the mother-in-law is just at fault, based on what's provided, for the schism. Can you give some more specific examples of how she treated you? How did you respond? On the face, I agree with you, but it sounds like Opie's leaving a ton out. Going no contact with a mother-in-law simply because they don't get along seems pretty extreme. I would be with you, except for she was witchy to me and honestly never did anything egregious. Almost every mother-in-law is witchy, and I'll put up with that. There are entire threads about mother-in-law from hell with sound reasons to go no contact. To go no contact over witchy behavior, even with your dear husband's blessing, sets you all up for issues later. We were in a no contact situation over some actual egregious behavior from both in-laws, and it ate my husband up emotionally. They are his parents, and I realized if it was perceived that I caused a rift, even though it was joint, he would resent me. While no contact was healthier for me, it was not for him, and therefore not healthy for us. Over time, this may lead to resentment, especially if something happens to his dad and he has not spent time with him. You may become the monster in all of this, because it is easier to blame and lash out at you than directing his guilt and anger evenly. Perhaps seeking a professional marriage counselor with some individual sessions will help you both to navigate this and come through stronger with a way for him to reconnect in some sort of way. There are no a-holes here. Yet. But not comprehending the grief your husband is carrying and having empathy would put the title on you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son he can't live with his dad? My son, 13, I will call him Ray, recently started asking to live with his dad. I currently have full custody and his father, I will call him Adam, is behind $50,000 plus in child support. Relevant to know, he moves around and takes jobs off the books, if he even has a job. I, 30 female, have a steady job, a house where he has his own room, live within a great school district, and provided solely for him his entire life. Adam and I split when he was a baby, and he made communicating hell. He denied it was his son and wanted a DNA test. Spoiler, Ray was his. Adam was deplorable towards me and blamed me for all the terrible things in his life. It got to the point where I had to get a restraining order. I knew Ray deserved a relationship with Adam despite how he treated me. I knew he wouldn't hurt him or mistreat him. Unfortunately, it was open season for me, so Ray got an earful of horrible words about his mother. I never once said a terrible thing about Adam and wouldn't let anyone around us say anything if Ray was around. I let them spend time together and build a relationship. I can't communicate with Adam, so I go through a family member for pickup and drop-offs. I've tried to go through him, but he doesn't allow it. Recently, Ray has gotten into gaming, and he plays with Adam, and I think that's where this all started. Also, my husband and I recently had a baby. Now back to Adam. He doesn't have a steady job, lives with his mom, recently got a DUI and possession, lives in a not-so-good school district, and has no car. If he were to live there, he wouldn't have his own room, and wouldn't be able to do some of the extracurricular activities he does when he is with me. So Ray asked me if he could live with his dad. I was upset, but took some time before I responded because I didn't want to let my emotions make my response sour. I asked why, and he couldn't give me an answer. When I was able to talk to him about it, I told him simply that unfortunately that couldn't happen. I didn't go into too many details. I'm not sure how much I should tell him at 14, and I didn't want him to get more upset with me. He asked a few times, and I tell him the same thing. Am I the a-hole for not talking to him more about him staying with his dad and just shutting it down? Edited to add, he is in therapy, but he hates it. It seems to be starting to help him some. I did bring up some concerns about his dad negatively talking about me to the therapist without my son there, and the therapist point-blank asked him, and he said that's not impacting our relationship. Not sure how true it was since I was in the room. He is starting to see all the good things we do for him, and is starting to be more grateful, but still thinks the grass is greener over there. Also, his dad has a toddler, which is in a similar situation with their mother having custody. I have in the past brought up that his dad doesn't live in the best part of town, and we have agreed to have him go over more. All he has to do is ask, or have his dad ask through the family member I'm in contact with. Problem is, neither have asked. I bring it up to elicit a response and get a maybe from him and a definite from the family member. Problem is that's getting exhausting. He has started to go over a little more for more extended periods of time over school breaks, but said he wouldn't do schoolwork if he was there. So that means breaks are the only time he could spend extra time there. Not a-hole. This might be the time to be more open with him though, and explain your reasons. Just a blanket shutdown is going to lead to resentment. Edited to add, you don't have to tell your son everything, but you should be more honest. Tell him about having to switch schools, drop extracurriculars, or not having his own room. Since his dad's finances sound precarious at best, let him know that living with him may mean giving up some of the constants in his life that he's used to, since things like the internet can be shut off if it's not paid. He also probably won't have access to the clothes and tech and other stuff that he's likely used to. You could tell him at this point that there are some aspects of his dad you've been shielding him from, and that you'll tell him more if he wants to know when he's older. The kid is 13, not 5. It sounds like you helped put Adam on a pedestal, while allowing him to talk you down. The kid deserves most of the truth, even if he's not ready for the full truth. Not a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.
Am I the a-hole for not caring my ex is upset about the dream life I am giving my current partner? I, 34 male, share a 13-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son with my ex, 37 female. I have a 2-year-old son with my current partner, 29 female, who is also pregnant with our second kid. For background, my parents were both doctors but died in a small plane crash when I was 14. There was a lawsuit, and they had assets that were placed in a trust I received when I turned 18. Therefore, at 18, I inherited a pretty substantial amount of assets. I met my ex when I was starting college at 17. She got pregnant 3 years into dating. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom like her own mom. I was supportive of that. But she did not do the activities that typically come with being a stay-at-home mom. Cooking, cleaning, managing the household, etc. I offered to hire some help, but she did not want strangers in the house. We unexpectedly got pregnant with our son, and I told her something had to give. I was working and looking to go to grad school soon. The solution was to move closer to her parents. and I got into grad school there and was accepted. So we moved. There was a particular house near my in-laws that both of us really loved. I originally showed it to my ex and she loved it. It was on a large corner lot, and we each dreamt of buying it if it became available. But no plans were in place to buy it. Prior to our son being born, the discussion we had was that she would get a job once both kids were in school. When our son started all-day pre-K, I suspected she would look for a job, but she refused. We fought about this for a year. We divorced. We split custody and I paid child support. About a year after our divorce, I met my current partner. Since getting pregnant with our son, she has been a stay-at-home mom. About 4 months ago, the house my ex and I dreamt about buying came on the market. We made an offer and it was accepted. We just spent Christmas there with all the kids. This past week, my ex called me pretty irate. She is mad I bought our house and that she heard from the kids that we are considering whether my partner will stay home permanently. They overheard a conversation we had with adult family members at Christmas. She says I am giving my partner her dream life. I laughed and told her that, beyond what affects our kids, I have no concern for how she feels, and hung up. According to my kids, she has been pretty upset. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. As long as your current partner knows it's your ex's dream home too, not the a-hole. The main reason I would tell her is, your ex is jealous and will gripe at your partner too. It comes across as if your ex married you for money. That sucks if true. Sounds like you upgraded to someone who sees the world like you do. That's good. Be mindful of your kids though. If your ex is mad enough, she may try to alienate your kids from you. Not the a-hole. Your ex can go pound sand. I totally agree. OP should make sure their current partner knows the backstory, especially if the ex might cause trouble. It appears like OP has found someone who's a better match, which is great. I just hope OP keeps an eye on the kids. The ex might try to stir things up with them, and they don't need that. Not the a-hole. I understand wanting to be a housewife and stay-at-home mom, but that comes with jobs she needs to do, like cooking, cleaning, and childcare. Obviously you should help, but the bulk falls on her. She doesn't want to do any of that, from your post it seems. She has no say in your life beyond the kids. As for the house situation, if it's a nice house, who the heck cares? Being a stay-at-home mom or housewife is a valid choice, but it comes with responsibilities. From this post, it seems like she's not willing to do her part, which isn't fair to OP. And as for the house, if it's a good home for OP and the kids, why should it matter? However, it seems like the ex is just looking for reasons to complain. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. A 20-year-old found an orphaned soon-to-be-rich 17-year-old and had her lifestyle paid for until she was 31. Then, after 7-ish years of not performing the role of stay-at-home mom or allowing help for OP, effectively making his life harder, she refused to get a different job and contribute that way. OP moved on. That is the end of the ex's right to be involved. That said, buying a house you and your ex had talked about was a little callous, especially as it was near her parents. It makes it seem like she was just a prop in your life. That said, it sounds like your new wife takes on stay-at-home mom as the hard job it is, so keeping that role, especially as with shared custody, there are now 4 kids to feed and clean up after, not 2, makes sense. But discussing sensitive topics within earshot of your shared kids is not smart. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex to give me full custody of our kids if she wants my help and saying that's the only help I'd ever offer her? I, 34 male, have 2 sons, 11 and 9, with my ex, 34 female. We broke up after I found out she had been cheating on me with this guy, Luke. She didn't fight me on it until she told Luke she was pregnant and he disappeared. Then she told me the baby was mine and we should try to make it work. I told her we'd need a DNA test, but regardless, we were never getting back together. She had her daughter and DNA proved she wasn't mine. We weren't married, so it made things less complicated regarding birth certificates and such. She did try to put my name on her daughter's birth certificate anyway, but was told she could not. Our co-parenting relationship was so high conflict that we ended up needing to communicate through a parenting app only, and a court signed off on this. Unless there is an emergency, of course. We can try to text, email, or call, but the other party is not required to acknowledge it unless it's an emergency. She hated it because she wanted to wear me down into accepting her daughter, but I did not. About 2 years later, she dated a guy called Sean, and suddenly Sean was her daughter's real dad, and I had peace, which was nice. But they also try to cause troubles with my sons. Luckily, my boys and I had such a good relationship that my ex and Sean couldn't come between us. My ex and Sean were together for about 2.5 years, maybe 3. He got her pregnant and then they had a son and he left. My ex yet again tried to get me to take on other children. She tried to poison our children against me. The courts ordered her to attend therapy and parenting classes. Custody was not changed. We always had 50-50. But she was told there would be monetary fines if she engaged in alienation again. I was also able to get our children therapy at this point. Anytime one of our boys had an event, it was difficult for a while. My ex would try to sit near me and she had convinced her daughter that I'm her dad. I told my ex to correct it because I wasn't going to take on her daughter so she wouldn't feel bad. Her son was too young to really know what was going on. I did try for more/full custody on 4 different occasions over the way my ex was trying to use our sons and was creating more problems and mess for them. Even with a therapist saying the kids really hated being with their mom and they'd have more stability with me, the 2 judges we have seen so far have refused to change custody from 50-50. And that's where I lead into the next part. So my ex is now married and she has another daughter and this one is with her husband. Before the child they shared, he was okay with her other 2 kids. Now he doesn't want to know them. Even I can see that during very brief and limited interactions, but she texts me about it, and I never respond. One of the 4 attempts at custody was when she admitted her house is hell and how much her kids are suffering because of it. But the judge still denied me. Anyway, she wants me to be there for her other 2 kids. I still say no. She told me she needs my help. This is when I said the only help I would give is taking full custody of our boys. She freaked out and told me I shouldn't separate them from their family and get in the way of the sibling relationship. Which, honestly to me, my boys don't seem to have a close or otherwise involved relationship with any of their 3 half-siblings. The therapist even stated this. But my ex is calling me an ass and saying I shouldn't take such a hard stance and should be helping for our sons' sakes. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What a crappy situation for you and your sons. Your best bet is to not interact at all outside of issues with your sons. I hope things get better. Sometimes judges suck. I tried to do just that, and until I replied to all this after ages of getting texts about it, all I did communicate with her about was our boys. Wow, what a mess. I would say not the a-hole and hope that instead of her having 5 kids at her house, only having the 3 there might calm things down over at her house. In any case, whatever is best for your sons is your priority. Good luck. It won't be better for 2 of her kids, but at least my sons would be out of that messy and toxic dynamic she has built over there. Does this woman know where babies come from? She needs to stop breeding. She knows. She just doesn't seem to care about stopping the stream of babies she's having. Is she at least a good mom to your 2? Or is she as much as a mess I imagine? I feel bad for you and your kids. Some people are just crazy town banana pants. But also, I will literally pay for her birth control. She's not as good of a mom as our kids deserve. I know parents who are worse than her, but our boys deserve a lot better. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sending my ex's new girlfriend a screenshot of him trying to get with me? Some background. My ex and I were together for 13 years and have a few kids together, the youngest being 2. We separated a year ago and have tried our best to maintain a decent friendship for the kids. However, he goes in cycles where we get along until he tries to sleep with me or get us back together. When I refuse, he insults me, gets mad, and blocks me for a few days or a week. Whatever. He's a so-so parent. Anyways, a few months ago, he had the kids for a few hours. Before and when I dropped them off, he texted me and made remarks about wanting to take me out and sleep with me. I do not entertain any of it. When I picked my kids up after a few hours, they informed me that they had met his girlfriend. It was a disaster, and he tried to bribe and beg our oldest not to tell me. I don't care that he has a girlfriend, but I did try to ask him why he was talking to me that way if he was seeing someone serious enough to bring around his family, because that's not like him. Instead of ignoring the question or answering, he decided to ignore me. But more importantly, he ignored his kids for the next 2 months, only seeing them for 4 hours total. He wouldn't return their calls or messages. I was really upset and hurt one night, so I sent a screenshot of the text he sent me on the day my kids met his girlfriend to her IG and told her, since she's okay being with a man who doesn't see his kids anymore, then she is probably okay with dating a man who cheats too. I then blocked her from messaging me back. 2 days later, he was back to seeing his kids on scheduled times and talking with them. I don't know why, but I have been feeling so guilty about it. I almost feel bad that I may have ruined his relationship. I hate that after all the BS that's been done to me, I don't like the idea of hurting him or somebody else getting hurt in the mix. Did I do the wrong thing? Not the a-hole. He is being disrespectful to you, his girlfriend, and your kids. You didn't ruin his relationship. He did it to himself with his actions. Exactly, not the a-hole. He created this mess with his own behavior. Disrespecting you, his girlfriend, and even his kids? That's on him. You didn't ruin anything. He's just dealing with the fallout of his own bad choices. If anything, his girlfriend deserved to know who she's really dealing with. Hopefully, this wake-up call pushes him to be a better parent, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Not the a-hole. If his relationship is ruined, it wasn't you who ruined it. By sending the screenshot to his now probably ex-girlfriend, he may just realize he is wasting his time and stop harassing you. The kids met her, so she knows he has children. I wouldn't date someone that didn't see their kids regularly, unless they were fighting tooth and nail to see them. So I don't see her as exactly innocent. Of course, he may have blamed Opie for him not seeing them. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I don't want to be a single mom of 3 kids? My husband, 42 male, and I, 31 female, have been married for 12 years. We have 2 kids, 8 male and 4 female. Our marriage is not great. His mother and sister often give unsolicited advice on my parenting, our marriage, and life in general. It has gotten better in the last few months since I sat down with my husband multiple times and we talked. And this time, he actually listened, so they backed off. Not completely, but it is better. In the last few weeks, my husband started mentioning having a 3rd child, which fills me with dread. I love children and always wanted a big family, but it would be too much. I cook, clean, take care of the kids, and work part-time from home. He doesn't really help with the house, which I'm fine with, nor with the kids, which is a problem. I changed all the diapers, woke up at night, and took care of fevers, doctor appointments, school, playdates, everything. The mere thought of now going through another pregnancy and then taking care of a baby makes me want to cry. I know I would have to do it all practically alone because my husband provides and women have been doing it for centuries. I should pull my weight and not be spoiled. It all culminated last night. After another one of his, I take great care of you and the kids and we should have a 3rd monologues, I snapped. I told him that he really doesn't. The kids barely know him. And when he comes home from work, he doesn't pay attention to them, except to snap at our daughter when she's too loud. He doesn't know anything about our days because he doesn't ask, and I stopped telling him because he wasn't listening anyway. I said he is not a great father nor husband as he likes to preach, and I have no desire to be a single mom of a 3rd child. 2 are quite enough, thank you. He stared at me dumbfounded, then called me a C-word, delusional and ungrateful before storming out to his mother's house. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're being realistic about your limits, and it's completely fair to prioritize your well-being and that of your existing children. From what you've described, you're already handling the vast majority of the household and parenting responsibilities. Adding another child to the mix without adequate support would only add more stress and make things harder for you. Your husband's reaction, calling you names and storming out, is not acceptable or constructive. Instead of listening to your concerns, he dismissed them and invalidated your feelings. Marriage and parenting should be partnerships, and it sounds like you're not getting the support you need. You're not ungrateful or delusional for wanting to maintain some balance in your life. Standing up for yourself and setting boundaries is essential, especially when your mental and emotional health is at stake. Hopefully, he can take some time to reflect and realize the weight of what you're saying. You're doing what's best for yourself and your family, and that's nothing to feel guilty about. Not the a-hole. I am sorry, but your marriage seems miserable. It's like your husband is living in 1950, and seeing the age you married him is not surprising. He found someone very young to fulfill his picket fence dream and doesn't care if you're happy or not. If he's such a great provider, why is she working part-time? Has anyone else noticed that her husband married her when he was 30 and she was 18 to 19 years old? Those are such different points in life. He dated her when she was likely a child and married her when she was barely an adult. He has delusions of being a good husband and father, forcing more responsibility onto her. Is just trying to control her life more without any regard for her happiness or being a supportive partner. Not the a-hole, but OP, you need to see how abusive this situation is and how it puts you in danger. Edit/mini update. For clarification, I married my husband when I was 18. We dated for 9 months. I turned 31 a few days ago and can't imagine being attracted to an 18-year-old, let alone marrying one, but I didn't think like that back then. Whatever happens with my marriage, I am not having another child. I won't change my mind when it comes to that. I am in birth control, but I also have no desire to have sex with my husband after how he reacted and treated me. I don't have parents, and I really don't want to go to friends with this. I called my sister and told her everything. A lot of the things you guys said in the comments, she has been saying for years. She showed up with food, wine, and her husband. My brother-in-law took my kids to their house for a sleepover, and my sister stayed with me. My husband is still with his parents and hasn't called or texted. My mother-in-law called, but I didn't pick up. I'm too angry and sad to have a conversation with her right now. Thank you, everyone, for commenting and giving me advice. It really means a lot.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to meet my mom after she went no contact with me for over a decade? So, a little background. I'm 35 male and my parents divorced when I was 17. My dad struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, and my mom eventually left him, which I totally understood and supported. Living with him was impossible. He wasn't violent but verbally abusive, and he spent all our money on his habits. That was the last straw for my mom. After the divorce, my dad spiraled. He nearly overdosed and ended up in the ICU. I was living with my mom at a time, but I was scared that my dad would die, so I moved back with him and my uncle's family. My mom was disappointed, but let me make my choice. Losing my mom, most of his friends, going broke, nearly dying finally got through to my dad, and he promised he would get better for me. It was hard to watch, but he actually turned things around. My uncle paid for everything: rehab, therapy, medical bills, and after about 5 years, my dad was clean and somewhat healthy again. He even apologized to my mom, and she forgave him, though she told me later it was only for my sake so that they could be civil at future events like my graduation or wedding. Over those years, I kept in contact with my mom, regularly met with her. She had moved on and met a great guy, who she eventually married. She was much happier and I was happy for her. I thought we had a pretty good relationship. That changed when I was 23. My mom asked me to come over and she told me she was still angry and disappointed that I chose my dad over her after the divorce. She said I was ungrateful for everything she went through, putting up with my dad's nonsense, and then she hit me with something that still pisses me off today. She told me she could see me becoming a drunk and a drug addict like my dad because I stayed close to him. I don't drink, I don't do drugs to this day, and I had no idea where that even came from. I was floored. I thought we had moved past all that, but apparently she'd been harboring resentment for years. Then she said that she wanted to go no contact with me because being around me brought back too many bad memories of my dad. She said she had found peace and happiness, and I was a reminder of all the pain she'd been through. I didn't know what to say except, okay. I later found out from a cousin on her side that her whole family was angry with me for staying with my dad back then, and they all went no contact with me for her sake, saying that I betrayed her. I haven't seen or heard from my mom since that day. Fast forward to now, my dad passed away 2 years ago from a heart attack, a result of his years of addiction. Despite being clean for over a decade, he had lingering medical issues. I recently got married and my wife posted some pictures from the wedding on Facebook. My wife said a woman claiming to be a cousin contacted her. I looked at the message and it was cousin from my mom's side, asking if it was really me in the pictures with my full name. I told my wife to ignore it, but then I got a call from my uncle later that same day, saying that my mom showed up at his house. For context, the house where my uncle lives currently used to be the home where I grew up with my parents. My uncle said she asked him to arrange a meeting between us, saying she wants to apologize to me face to face. He told me he can set it up if I want. Honestly, after all these years, I feel nothing for her, except maybe a slight resentment for thinking that I would turn out as an addict. I was going to say no right away, but my wife thinks that's a crappy thing to do and I should at least hear her out, let her apologize, and then go back to never seeing her again if I want. She says despite what she did shield me from most of Dad's addictions growing up. Now I'm having second thoughts. Am I the a-hole if I refuse to meet her? Not the a-hole, but I am wondering if you are an only child. Her reasoning might be that since you got married, you might also be having kids, and she wants to be a grandmother. You have to think about what her ulterior motive might be, and this is what I come up with. One of my reasonings is also this. She never cared before. That cousin probably told her about the wedding pictures. Not a-hole. I think you were very kind to be there for your dad when he needed you, even though he should have been the one taking care of you. It was really cruel of your mom to punish you for that kindness, and whether or not you want to hear her out is your decision. I do like your wife's attitude, that you can hear your mom out and then decide if you want to forgive her or not. But what your mom did was horrible, and it would be understandable if you didn't want to talk to her. I agree with everything, except your take on the wife's attitude. I think she's pushing her own feelings, not supporting Opie with this. He doesn't owe his mother hearing her out, just so she feels less guilty. My wife is just looking out for me, so that I don't have any regrets. I know she will fully support me if I say I do not want to meet her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for waiting to divorce my wife until it was a good time for me? My ex-wife and I were married for over 20 years and have 2 children together, 22 male and 20 female. For most of my marriage, things were pretty balanced. We both shared housework and childcare responsibilities. We were each stay-at-home parents for over a year after each child, her with our son and me with our son and daughter. We always had agreements in how we wanted to divide work and generally had decent communication. This changed when my oldest went to high school. My wife got a new job that was both very demanding on her time and was 50% travel. This meant that I had to handle everything about 2 weeks per month. And when she was home, she wasn't holding up her side of the work with agreements. I did my best to be accommodating, and we worked through redistributing chores/housework a few times to make it fit her schedule better. But a lot of the work just kept falling to me. When the pandemic happened, things got worse, but I tried to just suck it up because I know the lockdowns were temporary. Finally, when things opened back up, things continued to decline and I asked to go to counseling. She missed a lot of our meetings and just didn't commit to it. At this point, I decided that I wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, it was a really tough time for the family. My son was getting ready for college in person after his freshman year being remote, which was both financial and logistical challenge. At the same time, my daughter was also having some issues with depression, and I had become her main support person, with my wife gone half the time. I made a decision to wait until my daughter was in a better mental state and our family was in a financial stable place before I filed for divorce. I did my best to continue to contribute and was essentially a single parent for 3 years. On a few occasions, I brought up counseling again, but my wife said things were good and we wouldn't go. We pretty much weren't intimate for that period of time, and there was one summer where she essentially moved to North Carolina for 6 weeks for work. She came home on some weekends. Last year, after my daughter started sophomore year of college, and she was in a better place mentally and emotionally, I sold off some of my stock investments to create a trust for my kids, to ensure college was covered. Then I filed for divorce. At first, my wife was really mad. Then she left to live in North Carolina again. When she came back 4 weeks later, she said she wanted to work through it. But I told her I had made a decision to leave years ago and wasn't interested. We eventually worked through mediation and got an amicable divorce. My kids live with me now and support me, but all of my in-laws and even most of my family outside of my sister think I'm a-hole. They believe I should have forced the issue more when we started counseling and either divorced or made it clearer to my wife how important counseling was to me. They've called me selfish, and some of my in-laws are refusing to interact with my kids when they're at my house. For example, my daughter FaceTimed her grandmother once this summer, and she hung up once she saw that my daughter was at my house. They also created a bit of a scene at my son's graduation in the spring, refusing to acknowledge me and demanding that my son choose to celebrate with them or me rather than having dinner together as a group. I encouraged my son to go with them and we had our own celebration later, but something happened at the dinner and my son has lived with me and been almost no contact with them since. I honestly feel like I did what was best for my kids, but now it feels like their mom's family's punishing them, and I feel like a terrible father. I admit that it might have been more mature to address the issue head-on with my relationship with my ex, but I felt that it was about more than just the two of us. Frankly, I feel like my lack of backbone years ago has made this divorce worse for my kids. But I also believe that if I had to do it again, I would still prioritize my kids over my own feelings and make the same choice. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you did your best for your kids. His titles should be changed to, until it was good for me and my kids. Both Opie and his ex check out years before. Family are mental for being so childish around Opie. The kids clearly know who are the unreasonable ones, given Son has already cut them off. Opie shouldn't worry about the trash taking itself out. Be thankful. Not the a-hole. Oh no! You wanted your daughter and family to be in a stable place before you left someone who didn't try at all? The horror. If they wanted to be petty, they can be. I understand feeling guilty, but you can't take on responsibility for the actions of others when you tried your best. Staying for an extra 3 years gave everyone the best outcome. And it's not like you didn't push for reconciliation. Your wife dropped the ball massively and just went, eh. Your kids support you and their opinions are really the only ones that count. The apple didn't fall from the tree as far as the ex is concerned. They're all a selfish, irresponsible bunch and willing to take any responsibility, and quick to blame others, and having that excuse them from any consequences. Seems the kids made their choice, and they sided with a parent that was always there for them, and doing everything they could to preserve a relationship with the other side of the family. Unless Opie has no faith in his kids, he should trust their judgment a bit here, and actually let himself be selfish for once, and feel vindicated by their actions. Of course, the in-laws are gonna bark and piss and moan because their golden angel got blindsided by a divorce. A separation she cemented when she told you, no, I'm not going to counseling with you. Your in-laws sound not only insufferable, but incapable of accountability. It may be too much effort to explain to her a-hole family that you tried for years to fix the marriage, but she was too busy, somewhere else. Not a-hole for doing what's right for your children. It sucks the in-laws are being horrible to them, but hopefully they'll develop new relationships and bonds with other people who aren't incapable of empathy or rational conversations surrounding major life events. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to cherish his other son because he's the only one he has left? Made this account a few days ago. Debated on actually posting about this because it's stupid. But here I am. So I'm 17 male and I'm graduating high school this year. My parents divorced when I was like just shy of 2. Long time ago. Dad remarried. Mom remarried then divorced again. She's single. Dad had another son with his wife who is now 14. My whole life, his other son has taken more importance. Told me I'm the older brother, so I should be stronger and not make a big deal out of it. I was like 9 years old, standing looking out the window waiting for my dad to show up, just for him to call my mom to tell me he can't make it, because the other son had a dentist appointment and he's freaking out. It was literally just a checkup. Yeah, no, sure, understandable. Let me just go F myself. Stupid things like that. He ditched my sport games for random reasons. Not even just because of my brother. He didn't come to my talent show when I was 15 because he didn't want to. That's it. Didn't want to. No plans, nothing he had to be at. Just didn't want to. I spent months learning guitar and a song to play for him since he loves guitar and he loves that song. Oh well, let me go F myself again. My parents don't have a good relationship, but my mom doesn't keep him from me. I've heard their conversations, he just doesn't want to be there. I don't know. At one point, I asked my mom if he really was my dad, and she said yes, and asked why I'm saying things like that. I asked why does he hate me then? Emotional moment, but it passed. That happened just before my 17th birthday, and since then, I've just kind of stayed in my lane. If he reached out to me, I'd say hi, but I wouldn't ask him anything. I wouldn't hug him if I saw him, I wouldn't beg for time together. Kind of indifferent, I guess. Not saying he was never in my life, but he was really only there for the moments that literally any other person would call him a dick for if he wasn't there. Birthdays, short visits on Christmas, had surgery when I was younger. He was there for that. Anything else though, and he was busy like 70% of the time. Well, last week he told me he regretted being so absent in my life. He told me he had pre-planned a trip for him to drive me to college when I start. We would leave immediately following my graduation, and we would just drive across the country. Info, not accepted to any college yet, but I've spoken to the one I want to go to, which is in Washington, and it's basically guaranteed with my grades. I told him not to bother. He should spend his summer with his son. I do want to say that I've never said no when he asked to hang out or talk on the phone. I always said yes even when I didn't want to, just to keep the peace and not cause issues. As far as I'm concerned, though, I don't have a dad. I have a mother and a man who occasionally spares time for his other kid. He didn't like my reply and said I'm his son too. Lol, not gonna lie, I laughed and asked since when. We kind of fought after that and didn't end on a good vibe. I told him I was planning on dropping contact when I turned 18 since he was probably going to do the same. So why bother keeping this relationship alive when he's never wanted to know me and I stopped wanting him to? He's been trying to reach out, but I shut it down every time. He dropped by, but I don't see him. He calls me, I decline. He messages me, I ignore. Yesterday ago, I messaged him. Hi Dad, please stop trying to talk to me. I truly want no relationship with you. You never wanted one with me, so I don't see why you're acting so hurt by this. I don't know if you never cared about me because of your own hate for me, or your wife who never let me come over. I don't know, I don't care. I realized I did not have a dad a while ago and really accepted it recently. I'm not mad, I just don't care. Keep the same energy now that you've had the last decade, and stay away from me. I hope your relationship with your son stays just as important to you because he's your only kid. Have a good life. Dad told my mom's mad at me, and told me I should give him a chance because he's trying. Not wrong, I do feel kinda bad because I could tell when he was describing our trip, he was excited. Oh well, I wanted a dad to be proud of my achievements and my grades, but instead I got a good job card from a drugstore and an I'm proud of you text. Really sincere. Mom's still trying to guilt trip me and I'm starting to feel like I should just do the trip, then block his number when I'm at college. It's another year of faking smiles with him, and I just don't want to do that. It would be easier though. I don't know, am I the a-hole for all this? You're not any kind of a-hole. In fact, you're giving your dad exactly what he wanted all along. A son he doesn't talk to much, who stands on his own 2 feet and doesn't expect much from his dad. That's what he created. If he wants something different, you both need to agree. It's not up to him to decide you'll be a happy family now. Agree totally. Mom actually is quite the a-hole here too, trying to still force the issue. Doesn't sound like either a parent actually looked out for OP. She won't be the first parent I have seen who tries to encourage their adult, or almost adult, kid to give their useless ex additional chance. Or the last. In my experience, it's not a commentary on the parenting as a whole, usually the opposite. They've usually been no less than 95% of the total parenting that child has received and have quite often worked themselves stupid to do it. I think sometimes the parent who is left behind with a kid, for want of a better phrase, takes the obligation to protect the child from the other parent's crap almost too seriously, and it ends up that they're trying to protect an image the child saw through long ago, thinking that doing that is the right thing to do for their child, and not recognizing that the child has outgrown the pretense. I know parents who are now grandparents but are still trying to convince their kid that their ex/kid's father has changed. It's definitely an issue in this scenario, although OP should maybe see if he is at risk of getting his mom in trouble for parental alienation. I know he's very close to being an adult, but still, that could be why she's still trying to keep the peace. But I don't think it's necessarily reflective of Hopi's mom as a parent on a whole. Not the a-hole, not even close. I would probably do the same thing. He was an absent, crappy father. He doesn't get to decide to have a relationship with you now. You don't owe him anything. Protect your peace. Maybe someday you'll choose to forgive him, maybe not. But it's your choice, not his.